Good evening, everybody. It is Saturday evening. You know what that means. It was a AEW pay-per-view, another one in the books. MJF still the champion. The devil did not exist. And I'm joined by Jeremy Finestone this evening. Fine gentleman.
Hello.
Hello, how are you?
I'm great. I'm still processing that pay-per-view that we just watched. We're about 15 minutes out from this being over, and I'm still trying to figure out what I watched.
I was I was on a little bit of delay because I had a little gap where I paused the main event before it started. And so I literally just turned it off and then logged on here. So I haven't even really thought to myself. I haven't even processed my own thoughts yet.
Ooh, this is gonna be fun.
So it should be fun. So we'll go through the show. We will be checking out comments. If you have anything to add, we would love you to add it. I put an open invitation in our Fight Game Slack that if anyone has an opinion they want to share, they can jump on.
Drop on in, we'll talk.
Yeah. And so we might get a run in or two, maybe. Or people might just go to bed. Who knows? But also
I definitely don't have as much energy as James. So we're I log through.
James will muster it from like down deep. Like
he'll power through.
Yeah.
With the,
pre-show, you'll get on,
and he'll be like, I might be able to muster the win of one.
Before we go live, James will be like, "Man, I'm really tired. I'm just not feeling great. My back hurts. I just don't feel good." And then he'll be like, "Hey!" when the show goes live. So I don't know. I'm a little more what you see is what you get. But all right. So you asked a question.
You're a good pair when you two are together. I actually enjoy it.
So you asked a question right before we went on that I didn't have an answer to. So we'll try to figure it out. And that question was,
Kevin,
what did you think of the show?
What did you think of the show?
I don't know. I had an enjoyable evening of watching wrestling. There were good matches that I enjoyed. My 16-year-old daughter, who is not really interested in wrestling but is kind of interested in hanging out, is wrestling curious, I guess. Watched the full show with me, which was interesting. So I might have some of her comments as we go. So that made it fun. Sure. But I cannot say I liked the overall creative direction of the entire show. I did not like it. I would 100%
agree with that. Yeah. I would 100% agree with that.
I
felt like everything was completely overbooked. Not everything,
completely.
But the tone of the show felt like everything was escalated way beyond a level that it needed to for a pay-per-view.
Yeah. It was a show long angle, pretty much, and it got to the point where I was so in my head about it that I thought I had like a grand unification theory of how like the House of Black, the Gallus family, the Bullet Club were all going to merge into some super group at the end of the show.
It's the only thing that can make sense, right?
And we would end with like a 45-minute long super kick party on MJF or something.
You got the chalkboard with all the string connecting to the
it was a beautiful mind up in here for a little bit.
And you're like, it all.
Luckily, I covered my bases as I bailed out of the Discord chat by saying, "Well, it's either going to be everything or nothing. See ya."
Right.
And it turned out to be nothing.
There seems to be a sense when I'm watching AEW that they've lost their identity and they're both trying to regain it and create a new identity at the same time. And they're trying to do it all at once. And it's very confusing.
It's very confusing. Yeah. And it's not even in a, people would refer to like a wrestling buffet. It's not even like I think you've said this before. The smorgasbord that no one will probably like everything, but everyone will like something.
Yes.
Is like how you would like to see it in a way. And right now it's just sort of like this weird casserole where like
nothing looks good, nothing tastes good, but there's something there that's for everybody.
I have a story that actually relates to this. I used to work at this restaurant called Garfield's. And Garfield's was like I don't know, like a Bennigan's or a Chili's or like a Applebee's kind of thing back in the day, like
Sure.
in the 90s. They had like paper on the table and you like write your name on the paper and they can draw on the blah, blah, blah. Anyway,
Is it cat? Was it cat themed or is it
no, no,
completely?
no, 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 nothing to do with Garfield. Uh, that's 2 episodes of The Boom though in a row that would make Garfield references. But it had like a trifold menu, and one item you could order. Their big thing was they do all kinds of food. So like you'd have the American menu on one page, you'd have an Italian menu on another page, you'd have like a Mexican menu on another page, and then on the other page you'd have like Asian, like Chinese food, all in one
Mhm.
restaurant. And I was a waiter at this for like 2 weeks. I hated it because every time I would go backstage, uh, back into the kitchen, the smell of those 4 different types of food all being
Oh,
prepared at
right.
once was just overwhelming. And it didn't smell like anything, but it also smelled like everything. And it was on your
Yeah,
clothes, and it was
I
just
know exactly what you're talking
nasty.
about. It's
That's what
just
I feel
like,
like. That's what I feel like AEW is right now.
yeah.
Is they've got
No,
like the
yeah. It
Chinese food
just
over here, they've got the steak here, they've got the Italian food over here, and it's all cooking at once, and it just smells bad.
you have this as the MJF show. Meanwhile, the people that you built this company around, the Bucks, Omega, Hangman, Jericho, they're not really in angles that are front and center, right? And so they're building around this new set of stars, and that's great. That's what you want, but it's the balance that you need. It's
Mm-hmm.
the you need to make sure that the people who showed up for these stars are still getting what they want out of them while they're building the other stars. But it just seems like everybody's taking a back seat to the
Right.
MJF show
Right.
or the new version of CM Punk that we have in Adam Copeland. The angel version of the devil that was CM Punk on Tony Khan's shoulder. It just seems like
Yeah.
we have Adam Copeland who has
Yeah.
replaced him whole cloth into whatever plans that Punk had. It's just my new
Mm-hmm.
best friend, Adam Copeland. And everybody who loved Punk has now just put Adam Copeland into that
Just
spot and said, Adam Copeland is my new best friend.
yeah. Yeah, he's already, and he's even doing what Punk did of wearing like the Sting makeup and the
I
six
was
man
just
tag
like,
and all this stuff,
wow,
which I loved.
he found, absolutely. It was one of my favorite matches of the night. If we get into this, we should probably get into actually reviewing the show.
Yeah.
But just in general, the vibe that you're going to get from what we're reviewing here is just a little bit of confusion right in the middle of good wrestling and uh whimsical decision making, basically.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and one thing to note, and I think um let's see, Miguel and Sam have joined us, which is great. And yeah, MJF's crying in the scrum. I have it on the side window. Don't switch off to go look at that. You can look at it later. But
I don't do the scrub. I'm gonna come back and
I
everybody's gonna
wait for the
tell me
highlight.
all
Yeah,
these important things. I can't with these
I
things.
wait for
I
intrepid reporters like Sam to tell me what I should go look for in the scrum, and then
I have been way too close to the heart of like bullshit
the heart of
scrums
darkness.
personally. Oh, right in the heart of it that
Yeah,
I am okay.
yeah, yeah. You've gazed into the abyss.
He's fine now.
Uh, yeah,
I'm
good,
glad.
good, good. I was
Just
worried.
just a sore knee.
Yeah, so Miguel had a good point here. He says, I don't watch and analyze the show as deeply as others, but I had a fun time watching it. And that was a thought I had while watching the MJF match, and we'll get to that in more detail later. But the crowd's still super into MJF. Like they ate it up,
Mm-hmm.
like they were cheering for him, chanting for him. They were going for all the spot. They were playing along really well and having a great time. And I own up. I think we both own up to like part of our enjoyment is the analysis, that like part of how I enjoy wrestling is thinking about what they're doing and why they're doing it and how well they're doing it and all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Seeing the through line, like,
right, seeing the through line.
this is the
Yeah,
business idea of what they want to do. This is the direction that they want to
right.
take the wrestlers, and this is who's going up, this is who's going down, and why it makes sense, and all these
Yeah,
things. When you're
yeah,
looking at it and you don't understand what they're doing, you start to get concerned,
yeah, a little
right?
bit. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think so. Yeah, and it was really interesting. Like I said, watching it with my 16-year-old daughter. She has a very, very, very baseline idea of even what this whole thing is and how it works. And, um, you know, she was at the beginning of the show. She listed off, here's the names of the people I know from memory, and it was
Mhm.
MJF, um, the Ricky Vuitton guy, who's Ricky Starks,
Okay.
the guy who's named after Girl Scout cookies, meaning Samoa Joe,
Love it.
um, Brian Danielson,
Sure.
by name. She knew that name because she knows his dad's favorite. And who was the other one? Oh, John Moxley, the guy who bleeds all the time.
Love it.
And that's pretty
Love it.
much it. And MJF, she loves MJF. And so MJF is what it whenever MJF is on and I'm watching, she comes in and is like, "What's MJF up to? What's he?" And she's very into the Adam Cole storyline and the brochachos and all that stuff. She was like, "Whatever happened and all in, let me
Okay.
know." So tonight, when all this happened, she was on the hook. And so that was part of why I paused it, was because she went to go pick up her sister at the movie theater and came back, and she wanted to know what was happening at the main event. And
And the
the
good
whole
father that you did
I
not go
paused it.
forward. You
No,
waited, and you guys were doing this together.
I waited and we did it together. And
Right on.
she was on every near fall, uh, every dragon screw. She's like, I know they're faking, but I wince every time. And I was like, that's what it is. That's pro wrestling. And
Did
she
she
was
bite
very
on the
into
near
it.
finishes?
She did, yeah. She would like that. Uh, when she did. At the same time, as
Okay.
they were loading MJF in the ambulance at the beginning of the show, and he said, "Adam, don't let him take my title," and he said, "I promise you, I won't." She goes, "He's turning on him."
Not quite,
So
but
she called it.
there was some definite WWE
Yeah,
brain and some WWE filming when it came to that
yeah.
0 hour end of the angle. And I was like,
Oh my
for
gosh.
all of those people who locked and loaded their ammunition about the WWE seeping into AEW, you
Yeah.
had everything laid out on a silver platter for you right then and
Oh,
there.
absolutely. Yeah. This was a very 1997, 1999
Even
show.
from the camera angle where it
Yeah.
pivoted from the ambulance, then it went to the concerned look on Adam Cole's
Yes.
face
Yes.
from like in one shot.
His
I'm
yes.
like,
His
did you
his blue
poach a
eyes
guy
tearing with
from
concern.
WWE to literally do that exact shot? Because
Yeah.
I feel like somebody on Twitter has already picked up the
Yeah.
shot from
Right.
Raw in which that
Right.
happened.
Yeah. All right. So you want to go through the show, or do you want to talk about the big news from the show?
Uh, let's just go through the show.
Okay.
We've gone through,
Great.
and we'll get there when we get there.
All right. So let's start the pre-show. To my surprise. I should caveat this by saying I was traveling for work Wednesday through Friday, and so I have not watched Dynamite, Collision, or Rampage this week.
Okay,
So
I
I
have
am li-
mostly watched everything. I missed 10 minutes at the end of Rampage, but
I
I feel
listened
pretty
to
good about
recaps on the plane, so I am briefed, but I have
it.
not
Okay.
watched a lot. So there may be things that I missed. So one of the things I missed was that they were going to do the Kingston Jay Lethal match that I thought was going to be at Final Battle on the pre-show, and not just on the pre-show, but literally announcing it or not announcing it, but introducing it by saying, "People are still filing into their seats. Here's a world title match."
Uh the one thing that you missed was a tremendous promo by Kingston to build this match
Oh, okay.
last
I'll definitely
night.
go back.
They they did that group did their bluster and bullshit kind of
Mm-hmm.
conversation, and Kingston was like, "Look at me, dog. Look at me. I know you. This isn't you." And then he like stopped, like, "No, you look at me when I'm talking to you." And it was just like that, like got me interested in it with
Yeah.
one promo, and
Yeah.
it took away from the that whole Nashville whatever street fight thing that they did,
Yeah.
where it was
Yeah.
just all the bullshit.
Right.
Like everything that you knew, Kingston was losing and
Yeah.
blah blah blah. This wasn't that, and it just reminded you like these two are going to get in the ring and they're going to go at it, and
Yeah.
that's where we got to today.
So that said, how do you feel? How do you feel about that being the opening match of the pre-show whilst people still find their seats versus a Honor Club pay-per-view main event?
If
How?
it were me, I would have wished that Claudio and Buddy Murphy had opened the show.
Yeah.
But I understand that they believe that Kingston is someone that will lead viewers more than Claudio, and I can't argue that.
Yeah.
You know,
I
it's
get
like
that.
when you start a 0-hour show and you see Kingston, like right off
Yeah.
the bat, you're like, oh, okay, we're in for a show tonight. If
Yeah.
Kingston is the first guy on the card, we've got a fully loaded card. So I see the psychology of both,
Yeah.
but I know, like, from watching this product, exactly what they think of Kingston, and it's a guy that they can pretty much make a utility, and when the time is right, they can make him look good, but he's going to lose a lot when he doesn't have a title on him.
Yeah. Yeah. So he didn't do his, quite the level of pre-show hype promo that he became known for last year. I was hoping when he took the mic from RJ or whoever it was, I thought he was going to go off and draw some money.
They were saving him for later, man.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and talk about that. He announced later on, just because it's connected to that, that he's entering the Continental Classic. I almost said Cruiserweight Classic. And that not only will he be a entrant to the tournament, but he will also be defending both his Ring of Honor World title and his New Japan Strong title in every match that he's in. So every match that he's in is a title match. So he's either winning the tournament or he's losing the title. And the Continental Classic will result in a new title that he called the Continental Champion, and then referred to this as the chance to create a new Triple Crown in AEW.
Okay.
It's quite the...
There are a couple routes that we can go here, and there are a couple of loopholes that we have, that we can kind of see here. Could he win the whole thing? Yes. He was the only guy in AEW to go to the G1 this last year and do a round robin tournament, which I think was 7 matches, and he almost went to the next bracketing. Obviously, he wasn't going to because of, the interpromotional.
He was like 4,
but
was he 4 and 3?
Yeah, he actually ended up getting edged out by, I think, Finley and I think Shingo.
But he was there till the very end. There was a scenario where he could have gotten...
He was in it. Shingo and Tama, I think, maybe, were the guys. I can't remember the guy. Finley and somebody. But anyways, he was there, and so he's got the pedigree to be booked that way. So if you want him to win all those matches, sure. But you also have, in a round-robin tournament, trick to make a match later on. So he can lose to a guy in the tournament right away, and then at the pay-per-view at World's End, do a title match to win it back, and then win both of those titles back at World's End and set up another match at the pay-per-view. That way, if he's not to win it, because he's going to put him on the line every time. All it takes is one guy to win it, and then if neither guy wins the tournament, then you have a match set up for something later on, and then he can win it back, and it's just a little like in-world storyline. And you could do that match at Ring of Honor Final Battle if they're going to align these Ring of Honor matches.
Because the Final Battle happens right smack dab in the middle of this tournament, this round robin. So
if he were to have
conceivably
a big match
they could make
they
could make the main event of Final Battle a Continental Classic title match,
which they probably should.
I mean, not title match, tournament match.
A tournament match in which his titles are also on the line. He could lose them there, and then after the tournament is over, he could challenge them back before the next strong showing in San Jose in January. And New Japan wouldn't care, wouldn't be any wiser. He's not going to Wrestle Kingdom, so it's all good. You could play with the titles for a little bit of time.
Yeah.
No one's going to care about the strong title going back and forth in between.
It's so funny that the way you explain that, because it sounds like one of those old school, like when you hear about like 1970s world title changes in Japan, where it was like totally cool because he would beginning of the tour he'd win the title, lose the title. Except all this is on TV and the internet now. So
that's kind of the way they do it in Japan with the New Japan, is that they'll use the tournament for consequences, and then somebody will get a win, and then afterward the person will get their win back when it's way more consequential. And to me, that just screams Eddie's either winning the whole thing and going undefeated, which I love Eddie Kingston. I don't see him going
I don't see that
undefeated
either.
against 6 other guys in this
Yeah.
tournament. I think that other setup is way more viable, especially with his bluster confidence.
Yeah. It does give me hope that Tony is at least has a plan for what he wants this tournament to do, and it's not just have someone win it. That he is actually thinking through how will this tournament have consequences in my booking.
The thought process gives me hope that he's actually planning to set up angles for multiple guys for matches to come out of this that are fresh, which is something that G1 is still doing to the Wrestle Kingdom now. That C bracket, that Tama Tonga Shingo Takagi match that everyone's poo-pooing over in Wrestle Kingdom, that was born out of a draw in the C bracket in the G1 back in July. And now we are finally trying to settle this whole dominance of the C bracket thing, and it's frankly getting kind of laughable how long they've drawn this out. But we're talking about AEW.
Was this the draw that you predicted?
Oh no, that was a different one.
I was like, that's pretty subtle flex there. If it was,
no, this was. I don't think anyone really predicted Shingo Takagi and Tama Tonga going to a draw in the G1. It was just such a random match in the middle of nowhere, but that's what they did, and get a little bit tricky. Yeah, that other one of Jeff Cobb at the very end of the thing, and that's a whole story for another time.
Yeah, that's a great story. You can tell that story at Christmas every year for the rest of your life. Okay, so anything about the match itself you want to talk about? It was good.
It was exactly what you'd expect with the setup and the promos. I want to know where things are going with Ortiz afterwards.
Yeah, I thought Ortiz was about to. It made me wonder if Santana. It made me wonder. Yeah, and then even when he came in, he had the little gimmick with the balls and the thing, and it made me wonder if Santana's going to enter the Classic and be this guy that we just discussed who might surprise take the title off at Kingston. Because it seems like they want to do something with Santana, but they don't want to make room for him to do something. So it might be a way to give him something to do and heat him up a little bit without him like interfering with like AEW proper.
I would like that to be the angle, but I do not want, and this is no diss to Ortiz, I don't want him in the Continental Classic because I would like to see like the top level talent.
Yeah, I'm talking about
so Santana. You kind of have to put that.
I'm talking about Mike Santana, though.
You think Santana would be in the Continental Classic?
See, I'm wondering if having Ortiz reconcile with Kingston is kind of a hint toward maybe Santana.
I wondered if they were just going to do that and then just be done with each other. I just got the general.
Oh, might be. Yeah, just be like, just wash your hands and move on.
We're done with each other. We did our business to do the match. Now let's just go our separate ways. And, Santana's just waiting for the opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
But now that you mention it, I kind of look at him like, not out of the question. You know what I mean? Like, he's a guy that could use that exact kind of rub. And I think AEW sees Santana in a lot of ways that WWE is using Damian Priest, and sees that there's a lot of similarities between those two guys. And if you're not able to weaponize like Santana into a marketable wrestler at that level, it's like, what are you doing wrong?
Yeah.
That's kind of what I look at with him. It's like all the tools are there. There's a guy over on the other side, and I don't want to say they're a one-to-one copy, but there's a lot of similarities between those two guys.
Mm-hmm.
And what aren't you doing to get him where he needs to be?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good point. All right, let's move on, or else we'll be here all night. Claudio beat Buddy Matthews. That was pretty much exactly what you expect. Two really good guys doing really good moves with each other.
So if I told you that Buddy Murphy was going to do a Meteora and Claudio was going to catch him into a swing, that would be pretty much exactly the match that they had.
Yeah. Pretty much all the things when you put it down on paper, the e-wrestling simulator would probably draw this one up. It's fine. I don't know.
Pre-show was a lot of fun until we got to the very, very end. I would have to say.
Yeah. Then MJF and Samoa Joe beat the Guns. I had also missed the announcement that Samoa Joe was official, so I was a little surprised when they were just talking about it like we already knew.
It was the
'Cause-
closing, I believe, of Rampage last night,
okay,
where
I
they
thought it was
finally
going to
just
be
like
like a
at the very end, like, well, here we
yeah,
go, and
yeah,
then
which is fine because it's like everyone assumed it. So,
yeah,
I thought that was really fun. Samoa Joe seemed to be having a lot of fun
the
in
dive
that
through the
match.
ropes. You don't see Samoa Joe that motivated.
Yeah, and he was just being cocky Joe, and I really liked that. I liked that they tried to do the tandem muscle buster spot, which
A
Joe
lot of
like
muscle
gave up
buster
on.
attempts in this
Yeah.
match.
And then Cole came out very this again WWEism, and I hate to use that term, but like Cole comes out for a distraction spot and music plays, the bad guys get distracted, Joe chokes him out for the win. And I like that the crowd got excited when Joe shook his hand and said, "You know what's next? Like I get the shot." And MGF agreed, and the crowd was like, "Yes, we want
Here's where it
yes."
goes off the rails for me. Are you
Okay.
ready for this?
Yep.
Joe shakes his hand, says,
Yeah.
"Okay, buddy, we're good. I'm next." He walks
Yeah.
away. This dude just gets jumped, and Joe just keeps walking.
Right.
You know,
Right.
like what?
Right.
Like, don't you want to protect
Right.
your title shot? Do you think
Right.
Jay White's going to give you your title shot?
Yeah,
Do you
exactly.
think it's going to
Exactly.
transfer over? Like,
He
what's
should
happening
be
here?
he should be, I'm going to make sure you stay champ until
Yeah,
I
I
get
am your
you.
insurance policy now. I will see you
Yes.
when I see you. Like,
Yes. Yeah.
he still,
Yep.
at least for the end of the night, you know, like
Yeah.
MJF never should have gone off into an ambulance. It should have been like a recreation of Samoa Joe and the hallway where MJF is going down the hallway and Samoa Joe is knocking some guy out of MJF.
Yeah.
Like
That would be great. That would be great.
what it should
Samoa
have been
Joe is
tonight.
now knocking other dudes out for MGF. That's perfect. Yeah,
That's
would
how
be
it should have been,
fantastic.
not the
Yeah.
ambulance angle on a completely overbooked.
Right.
I gotta hold
Yeah.
my thoughts on that one.
And they could have even then they could even play that into the Cole stuff, because if they start having Cole hang around, MGF could even be like, no, not even you. You are getting close to him. Oh, Joe should have driven MGF back in the ambulance. That's great. Yeah, it always bugs me
Policy,
when the
buddy.
guy just like gets to drive themselves back. But
Just,
it's a trope.
especially with that knee, like that's not comfortable.
That's an excellent point. I hope it didn't have a clutch.
Not great. Yeah, that was my own main quibble, was that he left. He should have been an insurance policy, and then we got that completely atrocious WWE like producer brain, producer film, producer based
Mhm.
like film at the end with MJF going into the ambulance. Don't let them take my title. Everything that you're just like, this was not necessary. Like, I would be shocked to hear that this tipped the needle for a significant number of buys at the last minute.
I would be surprised too. Anybody who's into that would probably already be bought in. Yeah, I would think.
Here, we got this from David Hadley. The injury angle and the stolen belt angle and the build are fine angles, but the execution of them were questionable. Much better ways to execute those. David, I gotta agree with you on that one.
I agree, except for the stolen belt. That was my pet peeve for the last 4 weeks. The stolen belt angle. I don't mind when someone like steals a belt to taunt them with it. The fact that this dude walked around like the champ for like 3 weeks was just, for me, was something that just stuck in my craw for weeks.
It felt like we had to have the injury angle escalation because they went so hard on the belt being gone for a while that no one believed that Jay White was going to win tonight. So they had to continue to escalate the stakes to make MJF continue to be an underdog, even though they did not have the confidence that what they did. And I think all that confidence was lost when they had to pivot from the quarters all the way back. And ever since, they were always just trying to like, okay, what can we do to like salvage this? Even though they had salvaged it a week later, they were always just playing a game of in their own head. We got to fix this angle and make it a little bit better. Guys, it's fine. You're overdoing it. That's kind of the takeaway I had.
To me, what that is I think MJF. I'm going to psychoanalyze MJF a little bit. I think MJF has a huge amount of influence into his own storylines.
Yes. I
And
would agree with that from what I've seen.
I think that he's an incredibly talented, smart, capable performer who's also probably very insecure. Um, and I think that he's gone on these rants about like what pro wrestling is to him is about suspension of disbelief overall, not just like, he's one of those people who's like, why would you, the idea is that I don't hit you hard and you act like it hurts more, not that you actually really hurt yourself and you act like you can still go, So he's kind of this like in his mind he's thinking old school, but I think what that does is he feels like he has to overbook things or do things to get people to buy into his story, as opposed to to me he is perfectly capable of going out there and having an amazing match with Jay White.
Yeah,
And
I have no like lack of confidence in his ability to go 30, 40, 50, 60 minutes in a match with anybody at this point.
Yeah, we've seen it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I consider him a student of the game. And when he bullshits and says I hate New Japan and I don't like Tanahashi, like the dude's watching New Japan every week. I guarantee it. He's like he's pulling off the Made in Japan sometimes, and it's not exactly a common move. He's like Shingo Takagi sometimes, So
and he's
and so I think he just wants to show everyone what he knows, and he has an opportunity and an influence at the main event level. And it's like, I don't know how many opportunities I'm going to be in the main event. So I got to make sure I get every single opportunity to do every single little thing that I want to do.
Right.
Not taking into account that this guy probably, if he is as good as we all think he is, he's going to be on top for 10, 15, 20 years.
Yeah.
Like this guy has got a long storied career if Hollywood and all the other things don't completely take him away and whatever. Like, he's got time and he's trying to do everything now and he's just got to play it cool a little bit. It's kind of my takeaway on it.
Yeah, I agree. All right. Let's see. We are 30 minutes in and we're getting to the official start of the pay-per-view.
Yeah, we're going through.
Darby Sting and Adam Copeland versus Christian, Nick Wayne, and Luchasaurus. This might have been a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. I almost said it might have been my favorite match on the show. I don't think it was the best one, but I'll get to reasons why the other ones might not have been there. But it was one of the most enjoyable matches on the show. I am a sucker for people who team with people wearing face paint and putting on face paint when they team with them.
100%.
All the way back to Dusty Rhodes putting on the paint when he was the 6-man champs with the Road Warriors. So when they did that entrance where they kind of botched it a little bit on the camera angles, but like they clearly had a plan to do, they did the thing with the 3 bats all coming in and they all come out to one music, which I also love it when 3 singles guys come out and they pick one guy's music. And it was Copeland's music, and he came out, and they all had the matching gear, matching jackets, the matching paint. I mean, like, I'm just sucker for that.
The yin to CM Punk yang, as I said earlier.
Yes.
Everything that was like CM Punk did the same thing, and Adam Copeland's coming out.
And I loved it then, too. Yeah.
I don't care. I enjoy it. I love it.
I loved
I'm eating this shit up.
And I've been very down on Adam Copeland since he came in. I've been bored with him. I've had this sort of secret experiment on the Boom to see, like there was a time where we literally could not do an episode of the show without talking about CM Punk, whether he was in the company or not, without his name being mentioned.
And now you wanted to see if you could go an episode or how many you could go without talking about Copeland.
Not that I try not to talk about him, but I don't necessarily go out of my way to.
Okay.
And there's been times where I haven't even mentioned him.
That's fair.
Because to me, it's just he hadn't been moving it. But this was the most fun I've had with him since he came in.
I went to that collision that he wrestled against Lance Archer and the Righteous. And I was shitting on that match being the main event. Like people were like, hey, just calm yourself. It's probably not the main event. I'm like, what are you talking about? This is 1000% the collision main event that they're going to advertise. And it wasn't the greatest match I've ever seen, but I had a lot of fun watching it. And I'd never seen Lance Archer sell so unabashedly for someone like I saw him sell for Sting. So I like the 6-man combination. I like their entrance.
Mhm.
I like their whole vibe. I like the presentation. The other thing that I liked about this match was, oh my God, Christian's entrance was
With the
5
kids.
stars with the I want to call them orphan children choir.
Yes. Yes, the orphans. They had to be orphans.
Fatherless children's choir is in my mind
Yes.
what they
Yes.
were. And then he had that list of 10 qualities of
Yeah,
good
10
fatherhood
qualities.
as they're
Yeah.
going down. And I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
This
And
is what the show is
it's
going to be. Like, from that point on, I thought this was going to be maybe one of the greatest shows of all time. And I knew it was early.
same. Yeah. Yeah.
And it was like, if this is what they're coming at me with right out the gate,
Mhm.
like, I'm feeling really good about this show.
Yeah, me too.
I did not feel as good about that show going forward, but that's where I was at that.
Yeah, for sure. That definitely was a great opener. One of, like, I'd have to really think about it, but in terms of like just enjoyable kickoffs to a
Mhm.
pay-per-view, it's one
It
of the
was
best they've done.
the least problematic or complicated matches to like or to walk away from
Yeah.
feeling good.
Right. And Copeland and Christian, I don't believe ever touched.
Nope.
If they did, it was just like a quick snatch
He
at
bounced
someone.
out and the crowd got hot.
Yeah, I like that.
And
I like that.
they stayed away from each other.
Mm-hmm. I
They're
hope they
playing it
keep
cool
it that
then.
way for a while.
I
Poor
wouldn't be
Ric
shocked if it's
Flair.
not until Revolution that they
Yeah.
when they put that name, when they put Revolution out there, it's like the pay-per-view for Osprey. I'm like, their Revolution is going to be a big one.
Yeah, yeah, I think it will be, and I think that if they can hold it off till then, that would be great. At least in terms of a singles match. Poor Ric Flair out there simultaneously living his best life and also like feeling so sad to watch Sting go around and be a huge star and just go and just know that he can't do it. He wanted to jump off that ring so bad. He wanted to, yeah.
Maybe not quite so many glasses of alcohol at the bar, Rick.
Poor Rick.
The decisions you make have consequences, and we will
Yep.
leave it at that.
Yes, feel your decisions. Yes, that's what happens. Yeah, that is kind of like two heads of a coin. When you live your life like Sting or you live your life like Flair, this is what it could turn out to be. Nice quick glimpse of, I guess, Sting's son at the end of the match. He went and hugged somebody, and someone said it was son, and was like, once they said that, I was like, wow, he looks exactly like him.
The bump that Darby took from Luchasaurus off the side of the ring,
little ragdoll spot.
I continue to think that he dies on every bump, and he doesn't. But he's apparently fine. Like, that fracture mysteriously healed. So
yeah,
I do believe that Darby is in fact a carny of the highest order.
Yeah.
And every injury that he has is now like suspect.
Yeah.
It's like every other injury in AEW. My eyebrows are raised.
Yeah.
And
he's like the reverse Tito Ortiz.
1,000%.
Remember how Tito would always be like, I'm the best shape of my life. And then after the match, he'd be like, I came into this with a cracked skull.
I was injured and I came out anyways. Cheer me. And then we saw this in Collision, but Sting got an extended kind of curtain call there. And I could not believe how many times they cut away and then came back and cut away and came back. And Sting's celebration was still playing in the music.
Yeah,
and it was literally before they were going to the next match, and it was still going. I'm like, oh my God, they really are just going hard on this.
I love it. I love that they're and to me also it's smart because one of the ways that they're struggling the most right now is selling live tickets. And coming in and saying, this is going to be Sting's live. If you ever want to see Sting again, this is the last time he's probably going to be in your town. And that would get me to buy. I did buy. He's coming to my hometown on December 20th. And Oklahoma City, that was one of the places that Sting came up. So it was where I first.
It's what got me to that Collision.
It's
like flat out. We thought about like, should we bail? Like, honestly, like, I've seen Sting at the WWE Mania against Triple H, and I kind of want to see this Sting.
I'm really I got emotional just thinking about it because, I've told the story before on our show, but like, Sting was the first wrestler that sold me a ticket. It was Sting and the Fantastics. It was like, Dad, take me to go see this because I'm going to see the Fantastics beat Sting and Eddie Gilbert. Sting, when he turned face, was the first wrestler I got a high five from as a kid.
He was the
And
real life superhero, right?
yeah, he was that first superhero, and also the first like star that you saw come up from the bottom and go to the top. And
He
so,
had the face paint, he had the
yeah,
muscles, he
right,
looked cool. Like
yeah,
he would win against the bad guys, and you're just like, this is the
yeah.
guy. This guy
And
is real.
he's a guy who was starting out when I was starting out as a fan, and is now ending it. Hopefully not as I'm ending as a fan, but like, it's a full circle thing. And then the moment, my dad's not with me anymore. He used to take me to these Mid South shows or
Mhm.
UWF shows and see Sting and everybody, Dr. Death and everybody. But now on December 20th, like my daughter's going to go with me to
Awesome.
Dynamite to see Sting say farewell. And I'm like, I don't know how I'm not going to cry. I'm going to embarrass myself in front of my daughter.
Dude, you're not gonna
Uh,
embarrass her. There's nothing embarrassing about that. Like, don't e-
no, she's
don't
into it.
even
I
like
told her,
think about it like that. Just
yeah.
like be open with your feelings about it.
Oh, I
Because
don't
man,
care. I
those,
don't
those
care.
moments you're never like.
I don't
It's
feel
just gonna be
bad for
awesome.
her.
It is gonna be awesome.
Yeah.
Fucking just
So
bring the bag of tissues and just go to
yeah,
town.
it'll be cool. I think
Ugly
him,
cry your heart out, my friend.
yeah. But between that and Jim Ross getting one more boomer sooner when he comes out in Oklahoma, it's going to be great.
It's the drum beat.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see. Okay, so now we have the angle where this is where the worm turned on this show for me rapidly.
Okay.
Tony Schiavone comes out, says MJF is not. They bring out Jay White and they play the Gun Club music, and Jay's mad about it. So he yells at Tony. Tony seemed kind of genuinely perturbed. um, Basically said, "I'm trying to do business here." uh, Says that MJF is not going to be able to compete because he's injured and he's at the hospital, uh, and then literally says that like Tony Khan has decided to relinquish the title to Jay White. Then, as he is saying it, Adam Cole's music comes out. He comes out on crutches, interrupts him, and says, "Now I was talking to Tony, and Tony said I could defend the title." So Tony told two different things to his employees. He told Tony Schiavone to go out there and do this. Like in the fictional world, when I'm trying to reconcile this and read,
Doesn't Shivani
to,
have like a mic in his ear or like
right?
an
Wouldn't Tony
earpiece? Or
say, "Hey, wait, change your
like,
plans"?
and he's like, "Hey, listen." No, it's like
Hold
he gets
on.
embarrassed on stage.
Right.
And somebody talking about, "Hey, change your plans, Tony."
Yeah.
Because we
And
respect you.
there were multiple people who were kind of losing their crap over like just the ridiculousness of if a guy gets hurt by the henchman of a challenger and he can't do the match, that the title goes to the challenger. But I have way less problem with that than I do this guy with a boot who can't even walk is going to defend the title for him.
Did they ever change it to an unsanctioned, a lights out, any type of match in which AEW was not responsible for the results of this match? They
They did
could have
not
done that,
seem
right?
to. They could have done that. Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
there are simple things that they could have done, but for the sake of expediency and not complicating things or making their audience ask more questions about the logic, they went with the route that was quickest and then left a lot of holes for people to have to fill in their own logic. And they're
Right.
not necessarily coming to the conclusions like that doesn't really make any sense. Why
Yeah.
would they do that?
Yeah. It's the what I call the wow or the wow.
Yeah.
Like
This actively decreased my interest in the show
yes.
because it felt like they were more interested in trying to get you with a story rather than good wrestling. And
Yes.
for me, it was just a tell of what we are going to have going forward. With that said, I thought that Jay White did tremendous work with what he was given,
He
and
did.
knowing that he was going to end up on the short end of the stick with all that was said and done in this angle and this evening,
Yeah.
he made the best out of every opportunity that he had tonight.
He was a great villain tonight, and he was the Jay White from NJ who ruled
He was the
New
main
Japan.
event Jay White.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, he was.
Yeah.
No offense to the other main event Jay, but no, he was fantastic. He was a great foil, great villain, and to the point that he actually did for a little while make me think no, I never thought MJF wasn't going to wrestle, but they did put just enough doubt into me to think, I could see a path where Jay does leave with the title.
Yeah.
Maybe even
And
if
that's
it's just to
all
set
that
up
they
a World's
wanted.
End
That is
rematch.
literally all that they wanted you to do tonight.
Just
They
uncertainty.
wanted you to have a thought
Right.
that it was possible that MJF, without a doubt, was going to walk out with his title back.
Yeah.
They did everything in their power
Yeah.
to introduce that little seed of doubt to
And
get
on that,
you to buy
right.
see it.
And so on that level, they were successful.
Yeah. But it just felt like so much to get every single person to bite on the different aspect of the buffet of what this whole setup was in order to like get everybody the casserole.
Right. Exactly. They're like, yes, it's a casserole, but what about this paprika?
Wait, do you know what's in the casserole? Everything they
right. Yeah. We won't even tell you what's in the casserole, but I will tell you what you thought was in the casserole is not.
Yeah.
Okay. Orange Cassidy.
We got Continental Classic announcements.
Oh yeah. Where's that?
So we got Mark Briscoe now?
Yes. And which was delightful because they just did a great promo where he just said why he wants to be in it and went insane. And my daughter was like, "Who's that?" And I was like, "That's Mark Briscoe." And she just goes, "I love him." And I was like, "I do too, honey. I do too." She was like, "He's my new favorite."
This is the right opportunity for him to get some singles like spotlight against top talent. Because as much as I like that he is on Rampage or whatever, Ring of Honor doing it, like no one's watching that to the level that they're watching Dynamite. Right. And so if you're gonna put him in these matches on Dynamite, in which more viewership, theoretically, that's what we want, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and he's going to be a great performer. He's going to do great matches. He doesn't have to win many of them.
Yeah.
So he's a great guy to add to the tournament.
And then I guess we got Kingston as well, which he mentioned around this time. And then okay, so here's what he said. He's putting his titles on the line, and now it could be a Triple Crown champion because theoretically there's going to be a championship out of the Continental Classic.
Yeah, but is it like Owen Hart champion or is it like international title champion? Is my question.
When Kingston called having all three titles a Triple Crown champion, and you consider the Triple Crown champion in All Japan Pro Wrestling to be Katsuhiko Nakajima, you're putting a comparison on there that this is like the top of the top kind of title.
Which is like one of those titles just
like okay, that doesn't really seem like that because all of a sudden the title is only important if it's with the other two titles.
Right.
So I kind of don't think that's going to happen.
And one of those titles just kicked off the pre-show.
I mean,
so yeah.
I remember there are titles that you could use to cash in for a title shot. Kind of like a briefcase or like a coin or like
the gift of the gods or whatever. Yeah.
The Owen should be a title cash-in title. Like you get it and you cash in for a title match. They have an opportunity with this to do the same thing. The more that I came out of this show, I got the feeling that a lot of guys who don't currently have plans or angles actively in AEW are probably going to be the guys in this Continental Classic. It's like maybe we might see Keith Lee announced in the next couple of days as one of these Continental Classic guys. That's the kind of thing that I'm starting to think, because I don't think we're going to see MJF. I don't think we're going to see Samoa Joe.
No.
These guys. They have their directions. They have their title shots going.
We'll get further into it, but in some ways, I think they did a pretty good job of writing people out of that tournament through the booking of this, because you've got Jericho and Omega are now in the tag scene. That's going to be their main focus. Swerve and Hangman, you can easily say they're just out because they're not fit to do a tournament, especially Hangman. Osprey straight up said, "I'm not going to be coming in until January," and we'll get to that. So that takes care of 5 guys right there.
Right.
And
you might see Moxley, you might see Castagnoli, but I don't expect Orange Cassidy to be in it at this point. With that title of his, you have clearly decided, and we'll get to that match next. Did we get to that match? No.
Yeah, we're about to.
Yeah. So it's just like the plans that they have just seem to be like they got a lot of guys and nothing going on, and like, hey, let's all throw them in a match, series with each other and give them complaints for the next 2 or 3 months. I was
Right.
like, sure, fine.
Sure.
Many mouths to feed.
Yeah. Many. Okay, so we had the Orange Cassidy rematch with John Moxley. This was one my daughter was super into. She loves Orange Cassidy. She hates John Moxley. Leaves the room when he comes on. Wow. She thinks he's disgusting. Gives her the creeps. And when he came out, her first comment was, he already has a Band-Aid on his head. And she's like, I don't like him because he bleeds. And I was like, well, just wait till later. But so I had the thought of like, is this match hurt because I was trying to think of like, how does it affect this match? The fact that it main evented the last pay-per-view, right? The last one?
2 pay-per-views ago, I believe.
Yeah. So main evented 2 pay-per-views ago.
Yes.
And now it is the second match on the show. Does that hurt the status of the title? Does it hurt the status of the match? It clearly they weren't going to do the same match they did as a main event, right? No. The drama was way bigger on that pay-per-view show. I think everybody would probably say that match was better than this one. This one was good. It was enjoyable.
I think this match was hurt by the fact that Orange Cassidy didn't win the first one.
Yeah.
I think if he had won the first one by the mousetrap or a roll-up pin, and then Moxley came right back at him, it was like, you didn't really beat me. Like,
right.
You can't really take me out. And then they had this match, and he beat him clean as a whistle. I think we're having a completely different conversation about our satisfaction about the start to finish of this.
Yeah.
With that said, I was incredibly happy with the final product of what was it? 3 punches and a roll up, a kick out, 3 more Superman punches, and then a beach break to pin John Moxley in the middle of the ring. I think 4 guys have pinned John Moxley in the middle of the ring in AEW. Queen of the West. So, this is what we all wanted to see happen. Orange Cassidy is legitimately main event guy, top level, going to be in the mix with Ospreay, Omega, MJF, singles matches, not triple threats or anything like that. This guy is bona fide. But if there was ever a moment that I went back, you made a mistake, he really should have won that first match against Moxley
I can totally see that.
Losing with the snake bit result notwithstanding that went through, eventually putting the belt right back on him after beating, what was it, Phoenix? And so just wild, man. I enjoyed all this. It was the right finish and you got to the right conclusion, but sometimes you just overthink these things. And you're protecting one guy. It's you don't need to protect Moxley against Orange Cassidy. You just don't. If you lose to Orange Cassidy, that is not a stain on your reputation.
Right.
I have different thoughts about say Hangman Page and Swerve, but those are different scenarios when we're gonna dive into that one.
Yeah. If Orange had beaten Moxley the first time, cemented,
yes.
That would have been a win you could never take from him, right?
How many kids would be wearing the jean jackets again and the glasses and come into the LA Forum knowing that Orange Cassidy, their champion, who could beat a guy like Moxley,
right?
Is gonna be wrestling.
And it's he did. I mean, a similar thing was accomplished here, but it just didn't mean quite as much,
right?
And a little bit because it was expected, because you knew he was going to get his win back in a way.
Really, really hoped, there was still the seed of doubt because it was still Moxley, but just the way that they were telling the story with the crisis of confidence was just hero's journey kind of stuff.
Yeah, exactly. David Hadley, he's got a few comments. I'm going to save a couple of them until later, but one of them here about this match: Cassidy versus Danielson should be the tournament final, with Danielson over, and then Danielson can win the international title and drop it to Ospreay at Revolution. So he's booked out through March.
Sure.
With that, I got
no problem with any of this.
Yeah,
it seems like it's as simple and as uncomplicated as
Mm-hmm.
things should be, and not what Tony Khan leads toward. But
No,
I'm not I'm not
I
opposed
do.
to it whatsoever.
I do love the international title being that prestigious that it goes from Cassidy Danielson to Osprey. I mean, like Osprey as international champion would probably be pretty great.
We have a lot of people that are currently holding titles for a long time,
Mm-hmm.
and Cassidy did hold that title for a while and took a break.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how long he really needs to hold it this time around, given what he's been able to do with it. But
Yeah.
if he's not going to hold that title for long, in my mind, you need to start the clock on what title he's going to be going for next.
Yep. Yep. Absolutely. All right. Next up, Tony Storm defeated Hikaru Shida for the women's title. This was a weird scenario. I mean, it was like Tony Storm. I cannot process her really anymore because she is so good in this gimmick. She's so good at doing this gimmick. She is also still probably right now the best wrestler in the women's division, currently active. And those two things, I haven't figured out how to reconcile those two things.
I am done with this
hand,
gimmick.
You're over it, huh?
I'm done with it.
It is just starting, my friend.
I know, and I'm happy that they have found something that they believe that they have confidence with and committing to in the women's division. Because one thing that that Tony Khan has shown me personally is that he lacks interest in maintaining angles and directions in the women's division beyond, oh, hey, Jade Cargill is going to win another match and have a 75 win winning streak.
Yeah.
That's the extent of what he's able to maintain that interest in. So if he's gonna crib from 2005 WWE with Mickie James and Trish Stratus, hey, you know what? You're trying, and I'm gonna pat you on the back and say good job. You can do better, and I hope you will, but it's a start. And as long as you don't think that this is all you have to do with the women's division, we're good. But I am happy that there are steps being made to invest more time in this division. I did not particularly care for this match. I didn't feel much coming in or coming out of it, and a lot of it has to do with the Tony Storm gimmick and knowing the direction that it's going to be front and center. And the match itself did not help.
Yeah. Because
Botchamania ending.
Yeah, for sure. Tony, it's weird because they're comedy spots, but they're also supposed to be heat spots at the same time.
Yes.
This cheating thing, and so at one time you're like, oh, that's really clever, like the way she, loaded a shoe in her tights and then put a shoe in her hand so the ref would take the hand.
Was that an Eddie Guerrero tribute spot?
I mean, it definitely was of the genre of Eddie Guerrero cheating.
I mean, it was the anniversary of his death kind of thing. This past week,
yeah.
I wondered if that somebody was just trying to slip in get one in under the ref kind of thing.
Yeah, and she did it well. Like that was, it was very smooth. It worked, and it was clever. And I went, oh, that's so clever, But it's also like it didn't get me mad at her for cheating. It was more like, oh, how clever she is, and then
the pie tin.
The pie tin, yeah.
The pie tin is when it all went wrong.
As Taz, I believe, said, loaded in her britches.
So she has the pie tin that for the audience. She's got the pie tin and she puts it in her backside, so when she does her butt in the butt slam into the corner, the hip attack, Sheeta's not ready. And so she begins to run at Sheeta, and Sheeta's not in
She
position.
does her close-up pose and everything.
And because she pivots and thinks, oh, I'm gonna back up and do a close-up pose. I got this.
Right.
The pie tin slides down her leg to below her whatever bikini covering
into her hose.
fishnets.
Yes.
And so she goes and hits it again, and she actually hits the hip attack. And then Aubrey Edwards is supposed to act like what's happening. But if Tony gets up and turns around, the python is clearly on
visible.
her leg, looking directly at Aubrey, making Aubrey the stupidest referee for the next 15 minutes.
Poor Aubrey.
Until the next dumb thing that happens.
Yeah. I felt bad for Aubrey in that, because it was one of those things where it was like you just had to pretend you didn't see it. And she even kind of acknowledged it, even when Sheeta wasn't in position and she had to stop and go back to the corner and do the pose again. And then she like made a big show of even like hiking it up when she did, you know. It was a botchamania. Not great.
How did you feel about Mariah May's participation in the whole match / angle?
I didn't really them showing her watching the match didn't seem like, I don't know. I would have put her in the crowd.
Okay.
If you're gonna do that, it just seemed too contrived.
Maybe have her next to Luther, and Luther has to like keep her corralled, kind of thing.
Yeah,
like
I like that she wasn't. I like that what they did wasn't over the top. She didn't like freak out. She just brought her the flowers and that's it.
There's a lot of promise with Mariah May, and
there
like,
is.
They have something there, and I hope that they are patient and give her like the right rollout rather than like rush it, because they get scared or aren't confident in what their plans are.
Right. What I'm hoping is that they don't do the psycho character. They don't do the crazy stalker character, and what they do is just the person who really does admire Toni Storm, and she's awesome. You know, that she like that. Hey, I want to learn from you. I want to be your protege. I want to, you know, follow in the footsteps of you. I went to Stardom just like you did. But every time she gets out there in the ring, she shows her up and is like, she's better than Toni Storm ever was at that point. And they keep it like that. But I don't, you know, but it's also like Toni, there's no indications with that character that that's where they're going to go. But how can it not?
Everyone seems to think it's like the All About Eve, that whole thing, and the Joan Crawford, and sure, you know, just like if everyone already knows that that's where it's going, please don't go in that direction.
Right. Yeah.
David Hadley said, "I'm just glad they didn't do the match in black and white filter."
Oh yes.
I always get vaudevillain vibes.
Yeah.
Remember Aiden English and
it's very
vaudevillain, and it's one of those like. There's a lot of times where I'm looking at it like the WWE-ification of some of this AEW stuff is really hard to ignore, and I don't envy people who are trying to defend it when they see it or look past it and explain that you know, AEW should be its alternative. It should remain an alternative in every way, shape, or form. What do we got next?
We had a big ass ladder match with 4 teams. I was distracted during a lot of this, but we were talking in the Discord about like, you know, people kind of being like kind of disappointed in how numb they feel during ladder matches now. That it's like it's hard. These guys are killing themselves, and we're just kind of like ho hum, you know. Because there's just not a lot of it's got to the point where there's no drama
during the ladder match. That is exactly what you're trying to say. It's like you're typing into your phone while these guys are taking hellacious bumps, talking about like, hey, I'm desensitized from this ladder match.
But a lot of it's because there's no story to them. There's no real story as to why these people they have booked them against each other for weeks, and yet told no story about, you know, how badly they want the tag titles or any of this stuff, or even why it's all 4 of them at once and why it needs to be a ladder match to settle it. And the story of the match is, you know, there might've been something I missed out. You know, people did get into seeing Big Bill and Brody King square off.
Sure.
That was cool. You know,
there were the dream matchups, and there were like you've never seen this before, and like the meat chance, and you were saying it on the Dynamite show, or not the Dynamite show, the Boom, I think earlier this week. It's like we've all known these 4 teams are heading towards each other. but they
Right.
waited until the last minute to pull the trigger as to why or
Right.
why this is all coalescing right now because, oh, they all magically knew this pay per view was going to happen. So we're all just going to
Right.
do it right now, as
Right.
opposed to slowly building these feuds where these guys could have gone back and forth with,
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, Dralistico and Buddy Murphy had a match
Right.
here, or Brody King and Roosh have one over there, or Cash and, you know what I mean? It's just like everybody just kind of went back and forth. Cash and, Ricky Starks, but Ricky Starks is off like wrestling. I don't even
Right.
remember, just weird stuff, just here and
Yeah.
there, and it's just
Right.
like there's
Mm-hmm.
no feeling like they were heading in that direction naturally. It was just like stop the direction, turn left. Here we are. Like all you
Right.
guys meet us
Right.
right here for the match.
And the fact that they and when they made it a ladder match, it seems like the reason it's a ladder match is because they didn't think the 4-way is interesting enough.
That's
Like,
not true though.
yeah, I know, but it's like I was like, okay, 4-way, this actually be pretty interesting. All four of these teams are interesting. I like LFI being in the tag team scene. I like House of Black focusing on the tag team scene. Starks and Bill are a good act that's getting better, even though I don't like Ricky Starks being back in the tag, title scene again after a year or two.
So there
But
was a storyline reason for this match, and it happened last
okay,
night.
okay,
Ricky went to Tony Khan apparently and said, "Hey, it's kind of unfair that we can lose this match by another team getting pinned. At least make it fair and let us do a ladder match for
mm-hmm.
it." And then he's like, "Ha ha ha! I got the 7-foot guy in the ladder match. That's our competitive advantage now." Blah
Okay,
blah blah. It was fine, but it was
yeah,
just one of those
I'll go with
like
that.
we didn't need a ladder match,
Mm-hmm.
and the general consensus is nobody really wanted a ladder match, and
Yeah,
it probably would have been far more entertaining for these guys to go at it in maybe
yeah,
like a no disqualification 4-way tag match, something like
yeah,
that, where you could have used a table or whatever. But when you
right,
have
right,
like 12 ladders in there, it's just like, and you see Cash jump off the top rope and take out Jolistico or whoever it was on the
mm-hmm.
thing and nearly kill himself. And you're just
It's
like,
Brody.
oh, or take out Brody. And you're just like, oh, he died next spot instead
Yep,
of like really taking in that he killed Brody, just
right.
like,
Well, that's what's crazy is because that was immediately after Brody did his whatever that Rikishi pile driver thing he does onto somebody. I think that might have been Dralistico.
that might have been really,
Onto
but
that
it's like
same
back to
ladder.
back.
Right. And then he fell off the ladder and the ladder fell and Cash immediately comes out panicking, like yelling at the referee, get the ladder back up there because Brody's supposed to be laying on the ladder after that spot and he wasn't. So they had to cut away, set the ladder back up, and Brody had to inexplicably get back on the ladder and lie down so that Cash could do that spot.
Just
And the
okay.
spot looked awesome, but yeah, that's the I hate to see
Like,
guys cash in that much physical bump card, points on
sure.
something that just
It's
didn't
like
have
they
that
they
much.
have to prove that they're company people and they're willing to do that for the
Yeah,
company and
yeah,
and all that stuff. It's like, it's like that Big Bill and Roosh and Brody King all feel that pressure to be like,
yep.
I
Oh
gotta
yeah,
do these things. I want to take that next step in there.
right.
And it's like Brody's fucking wrestling with a broken hand, and
Yeah,
it's just like this is what you got to do to get ahead in this company and like to be like hungry
yeah,
and competitive and more power to these guys, like work through the pain and all that. But it is
yeah.
does not feel like all friends wrestling lately.
No, no, a little bit more of a Shark Tank now. Yeah, any one of these guys, I think you could have made a case for them to win. They would have been interesting champions, but I'm fine with Starks and Bill winning. I think they've got an interesting act. And I love Bill, mainly for Big Bill. I like that he's getting to develop and grow his style.
I do enjoy the team together. Like
Yeah,
I think they not at the level of MJF and Cole, but they kind of hit on something with those two together, and
yeah.
it makes me happy.
And Bill's becoming less of like the muscle for Starks as the star, and
Mm-hmm.
they're becoming more of a team act, which is good. All right. Next, the second women's match on the show. Chris Statler lost the TBS title to Julia Hart in a 3-way with Sky Blue. Trying to explain to my daughter the dynamic between Sky Blue and Julia Hart was quite a feat.
They're like sisters that aren't sisters.
Right. Right.
Like they just bicker and don't like each other, but
But they're
they're
inexplicably
probably
drawn to
going to
each
end up
other.
on the same page with each other.
Yeah.
And it's like, you touch her, no, nobody touches her but me, kind of thing.
Right. Yeah.
Uh,
Really weird. Really weird.
Right.
I will say Sky had more presence in this match than I've probably seen her show in any other match. Just in terms of playing a character, or just not even being as a believable, like that she would win or anything, but just as a presence. Um, I think
She's come a long way from that Chicago show that she got hired at
yeah,
a few years ago.
right,
1000%. But I do not have that level of belief or confidence that
Oh
the
no,
people
it's a
at
low bar.
you have.
It's a low bar, trust me. But I mean, just the fact that maybe it's just because she had something to focus on, that it was like, hey, when you go in there, you hate Julia, but at the same time, you kind of want to be her, so play that, And I like that. This title is so not just meaningless right now that I can't even saying it was right or wrong for Julia to win. I don't even really care. I'm just happy for Julia as a performer, that she's in over her head. She's at a level that she probably shouldn't be at, but at the same time, she's getting over. And I like seeing people start to get better. So even though she's still in the very, very, very beginning stages, like there's been talk, and I kind of stirred the pot a little bit in different discussions, suggesting, is she the most improved wrestler of
Get out of here.
2023?
I'm not even going to entertain. Get out of here with that. Okay, so did Chris Statlander's title reign fail?
I would say yes.
Is it her fault?
Yes, I would say not entirely, but I don't think.
Do you hold her responsible for
no,
the title
I do.
reign failing?
No, that's a better way to phrase it. I do not. No, I do not hold her responsible.
I think they wanted her to be something that she wasn't.
No.
And the
Yes,
audience
that's exactly
didn't accept her as authentic.
Yeah.
And the matches never got off the ground because of that.
Yes.
They wanted her to be Wonder Woman when she's like, this is gonna be a nerd conversation. She's Starfire, if that makes any sense. Like she's a little bit aloof, and she's cute in a way that, like, what? What's wrong with you? Oh, you're great. I love you. But she can still knock your head off.
Right.
That's what she should have been, instead of like, we want the girl that's gonna have the Instagram and like the pretty face, and it's like, she's beautiful, but I don't care about how she looks. Like her presentation in the ring, her wrestling, it's all there. I just, like, they focused on the wrong things in this reign, and I do think that they're going to focus on the wrong things with Julia Hart, because this title should be treated at the same level that Christian has his title, with the mirror image of the men's title version of this. And it's not even given the same level of consideration, because they don't think that the audience is invested in it, but the audience isn't invested because they know the company isn't invested in it. It's like this downward spiral, snake eating its tail kind of thing. And you need to put that belt on like Britt Baker and put it like right back at a level of like, this is a title that good luck taking it off this person, like they had with Jade. And they didn't do that with Statlander. And I think they're going to do it with Julia, but I don't know if people are going to buy into it.
The reason I initially said that I agreed that it was her fault is, I think if you had done the booking the same, had every same match and opponent just swapped, and had Willow Nightingale be the one to dethrone Jade, and then booked her in the exact same matches, the exact same number of appearances, because the same opponents, Willow would be more successful right now as the TBS champion, and probably would have been a better person to even put over Julia Hart than Chris was.
We will never know for sure, but I do not feel compelled in any way to disagree with you.
Yeah. Because she had everything you said that they wanted out of Chris, this sort of like relatable, like she's our girl, we root for her, like maybe she's, like she's just got a different look, a different aesthetic and everything. So maybe in that way it's different, but also but I'm also gonna knock someone's head off.
Yes.
But she just had that it factor and the connection with the fans that just Chris just doesn't quite have. She's liked, but people
She
are
lost. She
invested.
had it. She lost.
Yes, she had and she lost. Yeah, which is a shame. Which is a real shame. Because there's something can be done with her. It just, yeah.
Tried to make you into something that you're not.
Yep. Okay. Also, Sky Blue did probably making up for one of the worst Code Blue she's ever done. She did one of her best, and I think it's all about who's taking it.
I
think
am
that's the
glad that
thing.
you gave her credit after criticizing her about that in the past. That is a fair analyst, Kevin Ely. You made sure you got that in there, and I
Keep
tip
at
my
it,
hat to
Sky.
you.
Yeah.
Nothing but fair.
Okay. Now comes probably the biggest news coming out of the show, and definitely the biggest long-term effects of anything coming out of this show. They announced the blockbuster quote signing, and just said, "Here he is." And Elevate starts.
Dun, dun,
People
dun,
went
dun, dun, dun,
nuts. Yeah, which
they knew who he was. Like there
which our
was
friend
no...
Paul Fontaine claims that he did not recognize the music.
I mean,
in true Paul Fontaine fashion.
To be fair,
yeah,
to be fair, there are a lot of rights issues with Elevate on New Japan
that's true.
World.
That is true.
And so, like, there are very on when it's recorded versus live, I think they have to cut out the music. So there are instances where you do not hear Elevate, and they just started bringing it back. I think that's true.
Yeah,
I think it was maybe Wrestle Kingdom this last year where it's like Elevate was really a thing, but he had a different theme song for a little while there. So, as much as I want to say like, Paul, you got it wrong. Like, no, Paul, you are absolutely right.
I just gotta throw out the needle when I can.
And he also does not watch entrance music.
Right.
He skips the entrances. So
right.
There is also that. But to his defense.
Yes.
But he is all elite.
The people in the elite in the LA forum definitely knew who he was, and they were very excited about it. He seemed very excited. Felt like a big deal when he came out. They really didn't make that big of a deal of the contract signing. You just sort of hand him the folder and he signed it, and they said, now he's signed. But I thought he did a good promo. I think he was probably more concerned than he needed to be about saying, I'm not coming in right away. I felt like he felt it was really, really, really important to be like, I'm not going to be here for a while. I'm going to finish with New Japan. Like, I don't know if he thought they were going to boo him or what, but he seemed overly defensive.
You have one opportunity to get your message out. And so he's probably like thinking like, hey, I'm super... He's like the energy that he's feeling, like coming out to this thing. And then he's just got to get his bullet points out. And then all of a sudden he's got to be human and be like, hey, this is going to bum me out. But like this, and it actually felt like the most vulnerable that he's been like in a while, but he didn't come off as a heel. He didn't come off as a face. He just came off as a superstar that had come to All Elite Wrestling, which would be interesting to see, what it's going to be like when he said his first match is going to be at Revolution, which we're looking at March. So it looks like he will be able to work AEW immediately after February 1st. So he'll build
theoretically he can. Theoretically, he could do appearances for both.
Yes,
at times.
So right now, he does not have any dates for New Japan until January 4th. And he is not booked for any dates, even though there'll be New Year Dash on January 5th and probably another big event at the end of January. Yeah. Right now, he's got that match with Finlay and Moxley at Wrestle Kingdom. With this news, that kind of makes me think he's not losing that title at Wrestle Kingdom, and it's going to have some ambiguity because that is far more of a conversation to have if Will Ospreay retains that title with a contract going to All Elite and get people talking than David Finlay winning that match. Frankly speaking, just having David Finlay in the match with Moxley and Ospreay gets eyes on Finlay, and it gets people actually having a conversation about the Finley that they watch in a match rather than the Finley that they hear about and talk about on Twitter. A lot of people like talk about that guy and haven't really seen him like wrestle.
I'm one of them.
You know what I mean? It's just like a lot of people have opinions based off
Yeah.
of what they've seen,
Yeah.
but you know, we know how many people watch New Japan. It's
Yeah.
not the Venn diagram that you think it is on
Right.
Twitter versus who's actually watching.
Right. Yeah,
I'm excited, man. This is the
I'm pumped.
possible outcome.
Me too, and I'm thrilled that's the decision. I really, going into this rumors that, you know, of where he was going and how bad WWE wanted him, I really started to convince myself that WWE was where he was going to land. That he was like, you know what, I have done, you know, the year that he's had, like I could see him saying, you know what, January 4th, I will
Checked
have
off
done
all
what
the
I did,
boxes.
which is to have the best in-ring year that anyone's ever had.
You got
in
to
his
a
mind.
point with this guy where you were like, who has he have left to wrestle?
Right.
Like, if he's getting all this out of his system now, it means because he's trying to wrap it up and take off, and
right,
because he's not going to get the chance.
That's exactly
anymore.
what I was thinking. And so I thought, well, he's like, well, what's left? It's like all the guys I've never wrestled and the places I've never been. Saudi Arabia, the big stadium shows.
I think I told my partner on Speaking Strong Style, I had Will Ospreay going to WWE at 55% personally.
Yeah.
Just the money and the opportunity and the prestige and the exposure.
Yeah.
Just it was very hard unless Tony Khan was going to back up even more of his father's money to pay for
and
Will Ospreay.
My speculation is that if Tony Khan didn't have All In 2 locked down at Wembley, he probably wouldn't have gotten Ospreay. Yeah. That's just a guess, but I think, you know, the enthusiasm that he announced that, you know, in this promo of like, there's two things you know.
That
One,
was your tell.
I'm going to be at Revolution,
already.
and number two, I'm going to be at All In, and I think in his mind he's like, what are the things I have left to do? I could probably still go to WWE in 3 years if I wanted to, if I don't get hurt too bad, and Wembley means a lot to him. And I think, I hope that he was promised, and that promise will be delivered. You're going to main event Wembley and maybe win the world title there.
I think that there was a lot to do with that. We got David Hadley. Ospreay is going to be the centerpiece of AEW New Japan partnership going forward. There's going to be a lot like the Moxley relationship. You know, like Tony Khan, I think giving him away to New Japan is going to be working a lot of AEW and a lot of AEW pay-per-views. We can probably kiss goodbye Will Ospreay ever doing another G1 or anything like that. You know, like it is going to be big shows, United Empire. Maybe we see a little bit more United Empire coming over to our side with a little bit of fusion. The thing that we don't see with Bullet Club between the two, because they're trying to separate the two, we might actually see a little bit more of that. But this is all fantastic news. I'm super happy about pretty much all that's worked out, because it made me believe that New Japan allowing him to negotiate early was with the caveat that they were probably going to have some dates with him. And if they have dates with him, New Japan is more fun for me personally.
Yes.
I would watch it without Ospreay, but if I get to watch an Ospreay match here or there, awesome. Great. Thank you.
Fantastic. Yeah. I mean, they signed the best wrestler in the world. Good for them.
Yeah.
Like, no bad there. And he seems excited about it, so that's great. Okay. All right. Then the show leveled up. Swerve and Hangman. The Christian entrance was great. The Swerve entrance was, I thought, fantastic. With this stepping dance crew, doing the choreography to the intro of the song, and then Nana coming.
They reminded me of the LA Raider girls.
Yeah, and then them dancing with Nana down there. I mean, it's the high point of Nana's career. And
it's never gonna get better than this.
Never gonna get better than that, because they were all awesome. He was awesome.
They were kind of breaking at the very end. If you can see, like they were having a great time with the crowd, just like knowing the move, and they're like, "The hell is happening?"
Yeah, right. They're like, "What's going on here?" And so I didn't catch. I don't remember the name, but someone pointed out in the Discord that there have been some people who are like, "Oh, Nana's too funny for Swerve. It doesn't work and stuff." And they're like, "No, like." And I
That's
agree with
how
this
it works.
person.
It's like
That's how it
Iago.
works. His flamboyance and kind of ridiculousness and being the jester just makes Swerve to me that much more
It's
sinister.
like the first one I can think of is Jafar and Iago from
Yeah.
Aladdin, where you
Mm-hmm.
have like the comic relief or like the
Yeah.
hyenas and
Right.
Scar. It's like
Yeah.
you need to
That's
have that guy that's just evil but
yeah.
funny
Yeah.
because you
Yeah.
can't be terrified all the time. You
Right.
need to have the break in the terror in
Yeah.
some way, shape, or form. Otherwise, like
And
there's no
when you talk about terror, Swerve brought the terror.
the
This
clothes.
match. Swerve was a murderous, just like he was a horror movie
Pints of
villain.
blood were
Yeah.
spilled in
And
this match.
Hangman, foregoed the entrance, just went right to it. I think this was the Hangman of old, man. He came out and this is the Hangman that got over.
Mm-hmm.
And that they were like saying this guy's the next, should be the next face of the company. And at the same time, so I thought this match was really dramatic. I thought the false finishes and most of the story of the match I thought was really, really well done. Um, there are things about Texas death matches and death matches in general that tropes that I just don't like and don't buy into, like staples. I know it's shocking, and I know it's like, you know, gets a reaction out of you and that kind of stuff. But to me, it's one of those things of like, what is it actually doing to help you defeat your opponent?
Right.
Stapling them in the chest or the cheek, or it's more just like, And I've
You're
heard,
powered up by the reaction from the crowd by the action that you're doing, which makes
right,
no real
right,
logical sense.
right. So I just don't get into the psychology of that. So, but at the same time, I was probably more into this match in terms of like being dramatically invested in it
I was engrossed. Like I
than
couldn't look
most.
away.
Yeah, because I honestly didn't know who was going to win, and they completely had me suspend my disbelief that these two guys hated each other and this was a blood feud. And you can criticize all you want the build to it and the breaking into the house, and did they earn this level of blood feud? I don't know if they earned it, but they made me believe it. So I don't. So I'm okay with it.
Okay.
Because now I hate interference in these matches.
The cage thing took you out, huh?
Cage thing took me out. They got me back by the end. And I like the fact that Swerve beat him because he was the more evil of the two. He was willing to go further. Now, we started to have a disagreement in the Discord, and we both pretty much agreed to just save it.
Sure.
How do you feel that Hangman came out of this match?
Okay, so we need to talk about how Hangman came into this match.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so Hangman, since he lost the title to CM Punk, has been primarily backburnered into the company from the main event scene. After that title thing, he went out there and cut a promo, said, "Hey, I'm kind of out of the picture here, so that's cool, whatever." We didn't really know what was going on, didn't realize there were politics at play.
Right.
And then I think we had a tournament around Grand Slam, and that was the first time that Hangman Page began losing to the guy that would end up being the title challenger at the time. And this became a recurring pattern over the next couple of months, maybe even all the way through now. He is the guy to get the guy to the main event, a gatekeeper, if you will. And you have so many bolts in the chamber, and I don't mean to use that like a cowboy term or anything like that. There's no pun intended there. And we are rapidly getting to the point where you can't keep doing this and expecting that this multi-million-dollar contract, you're going to get your return on investment on it because you are taking too much money out and not depositing enough back in. Is Swerve the guy to elevate using Hangman Page? Arguably, yes. Was this match fantastic? Yes, it was. Was it a bloodbath? Was it a spectacle? Was it a great Texas death match? Yes. Was it better than the Jon Moxley Texas death match in March? No, I don't think it was. I think that one was more of a pure wrestling match.
Yeah.
And just they played on elements of it to get to the finish of this one, including hanging Hangman with the chain. But what is Hangman beyond a guy who has a great pay-per-view match every couple of months?
Mm-hmm.
When you have him on the TV, you're not making him a priority. He's not a focus. You are diminishing him actively in a way that you don't realize it when it's happening. But once you get like later on, you're like, wow, Hangman doesn't really seem like the star that he used to be, even though he's had these bloodbath matches that you actually have to pay to see. Half of the audience of Dynamite and Collision aren't paying for, a number of these people aren't paying for this show, and they don't see it until all they see is a guy that loses and doesn't see the context of this amazing match that he had. And to me, that is something that you are somewhat short-sighted in. And that's kind of where I was at on this. It's like, you cannot keep doing this with a cornerstone and expect that he is going to have the same drawing power going forward. You are playing with fire, and it'll be a cautionary tale. Whether I'm right or whether I'm wrong, I don't know. But there is a lot of evidence in the past that says that you cannot diminish stars and expect them to remain the stars that you want them to be, like, going forward.
Okay. I agree with you. I'm looking up something really quick while I am.
Yeah, cage match pay-per-view for Page.
Yeah, I'm looking at his record for the year, and I'm also looking at the roster page to compare some things, because as you were saying that, I was saying I think I agree with every point you just made. I think the same point could be made about all four members of the Elite.
Yes, absolutely.
Because
we had Revolution
same
match,
problem with Kenny.
right?
Mm-hmm.
With Hangman
right, that
Page.
was
Then
his
we
big
had the
win
Anarchy in the arena at Double or Nothing.
Right.
And then when they went to All In, they ended up losing in that match with Jay White and Takeshita and whatnot. And then he immediately pivoted to the Swerve program, because he didn't really even have a program at All Out, I don't even think he was on the match. So, like, he's a guy on the roster that, fuck, man, he's an excellent hand. They're paying a lot of money.
I mean, yeah, I think I think your larger point I have no disagreement with. And I think you're exactly right. You have these people who you're some of your highest paid people who you should be building the company around, and you're sort of treating them like
they're okay for now. We don't have to worry about them.
Right. You treat them as like, we don't have to invest in them because they're always going to be that way. And it's like, I would probably say Kenny is the only one who's not been significantly damaged by that attitude. And
we're circling that a little bit.
And we're close. We're real close. And that was one of the things when I was looking at the record. When you look at singles wins in 2023, Adam Page is 7-4, and Kenny Omega is 4-4. So he's actually winning more than Kenny Omega.
But they don't mean.
But they're
anything.
less significant.
Like,
they don't mean anything. Right.
What are you capitalizing on with these wins? What happened with Adam Page after when he got the 7-4? What happened to him after the Moxley match? It basically just led into a bigger grudge match rather than a spotlight for him to move forward.
It's the joke about how we have with AEW now is that the winners of the feuds don't get advanced, and the losers of the feuds get leveled up. So Moxley lost that match. He lost the Adam Page Moxley singles feud.
Yep.
Because the match to settle it all, and then Moxley
went on
became
to win our Anarchy in the Arena.
Right, and win the international title.
Yeah.
And be treated as a bigger guy. So I agree with your larger point.
Tony Khan's company. You can do whatever you want with your guys. I am a big fan of Hangman Page, and he is a
Yeah.
guy that you can continue to build the
Yeah.
company around. He is hard as fuck. Swerve is clearly hard as fuck as well.
Yeah.
Like these guys, like
Yeah.
I don't want them to touch for like 2 years based
Right.
off of how hard they. This is like the
Yeah.
hardcore version of Naito and Ibushi. Like these two
Right.
are dangerous
Right.
around each other. You do not want to do this.
I think the only thing I would say I disagree with is I think this match I felt he came out, even though he lost, I felt he came out stronger as a character performer and with a connection to the fans that he did a week ago.
He definitely came out stronger.
I think I
There was
would
a
say
point during
both
the
guys
match
came out of the match stronger than they went in.
Yes. I would agree with that. I would agree that there was a point during the match that Hangman's connection with the audience was at as high as it's ever been.
Yeah. Yes.
But I think
And if he had won,
at the end, to have lost after your home was invaded and your new infant son's crib was violated.
Yeah.
The fact that you ended up losing to this guy,
essentially fair and square.
Fair and square, you know, like by the rules of the match.
By the rules of the
I don't
match.
care how hard you beat him pillar to post. You still lost, and like your family, you did not defend your family's honor. And like, I don't know if that's a key thing, but in my mind, I made this argument, and we can get the conversation about this if people get this on the YouTube comments later on. But he isn't Seth Rollins after the Fiend territory, and he may have to turn badass heel. Like, just I am going to destroy everyone and everything in the world. You know, the Bucks are already kind of turning heel. He may end up turning, and that might be the best thing for him. Where there's just like he loses all like humanity, and he's just a monster.
Yeah, and he's never been a heel in AEW, so that would be.
It might be time.
Yeah. All right, let's keep going here.
Piggyback into that tag match.
Yeah.
Where Omega is on the drain.
Right. All right, tag match. Golden Jets, the new best friends apparently of Omega and Jericho, beat the Young Bucks. Omega pinned Matt with the One-Wing Angel, and the Bucks lost their crap and freaked out. This match was just like the show. For how overbooked this whole show was, there were angles I was expecting to happen that did not happen.
Right.
So I am fully expecting and still fully expecting that the Young Bucks are going to land in the Callis family. And I thought it would happen tonight, but there were a lot of things that I thought might happen tonight that didn't happen. So
this was a death spot.
I don't know. What did you think of this match? Yeah, it was.
Death spot. This was absolutely a death spot match. And on a different night, these four guys should have no problem getting out of a death spot match after this match. But it was a little bit of a struggle, and near the end of the match, probably when Jericho hit the code breaker on Nick Jackson as they were about to do the Meltzer driver, that kind of turned around the entire match and woke up the audience. And from that point on, the match was fantastic. But it was a tale of two matches. And we're getting into a point with Omega where it's like his team up with Jericho, his team up with the Ibushi is taken away from the mystique of like the cleaner Kenny Omega, the singles guy, the whatnot. And I think he'll probably remain a babyface despite the other guys potentially turning heel. This match should have been better. I mean, we talk about Hangman Page and Kenny Omega versus the Young Bucks being one of the greatest tag matches of all time. And you switched out one guy in here. Like, and it didn't hit that level. And I don't know.
But I don't think it was
design.
just Jericho. Yeah.
No, I don't. It wasn't by design. Yeah. But it's like, how great should we be talking about this match when you like those three guys have been in like countless matches. You switch out the fourth one, and it's like, did you just not feel like showing up for work tonight, or was like you're told, you know, ease it down a little bit? But there are people that see those four guys and say like, I cannot wait to see a fucking show from these guys. Right. And I'm not necessarily sure they got that show.
on paper, even following the death match, it was the right place to put it in terms of those are some of the 4 biggest stars. They're signature stars of AEW in a match we haven't seen yet, in even, well, close to, but not in that combination. And yeah, it should have been blow away good.
Yes.
And it was good. It was good. I think a lot of it was they didn't. I think they're not as invested in doing that story as they were with the Hangman match, because with the Hangman tag match, because in that it was really well thought out. Every beat of the match was building to how much on the same page are Kenny and Hangman. Can they get it? If they can get it together enough, they could beat this team that is arguably the best team of all time.
Mm-hmm.
And they're the ones who have to do that because they're the champs. Also, all 4 of them, what lines are they going to cross to prove this? And how far are they willing to go? With this one, I never felt those beats happen in the match of when did Omega decide he was going balls out against the Young Bucks? And when did the Bucks start pushing him too far? It could be that I just kind of missed it. And maybe if I watched it again, I would pick up on it more.
There really wasn't. Like,
what
even on the Collision and the Rampage, it was just Omega
right.
going, I don't know what to do here. I'm
right.
in a match. Can't we all just be friends?
And then suddenly he's just like going crazy on him. And I felt like you should have felt that more in the match where like the
like there should have been a moment where they crossed the line beyond like the nut shot. Like, a nut shot, if you're going to say like that's the thing that like makes Kenny Omega like unrepentantly put his friend into a one-winged angel, like make that nut shot be like the worst nut shot in the world.
And who was the nut shot on?
It was on Kenny, I thought.
Okay, so like it could have even been like it was on Omega. I mean on Jericho. And it's like they didn't even do it to him, but the fact that they were willing to cheat to beat him, it's like, all right, like I just would have liked to have seen a little more of that relationship breakdown in the match, as opposed it just sort of was like a match. And
I guess the best way to put it is everything was fundamentally sound, but it didn't feel like there was really the heart in the match.
Yeah. I just didn't really feel like the story of the match. And I'm fine with them winning. I think it's interesting. It was interesting that they won.
You mean our Dynamite main event of Big Bill and Ricky Stark versus Jericho and Kenny Omega?
Yeah.
Before the Callis family breaks it up.
Right. Yeah. Maybe. So yeah, I'm interested to see. I'm not interested. The Bucks have jumped the shark for me in a lot of ways as performers.
They're the conversation that I hope you and James have about how about those new contracts and the change in the mood.
Yeah.
Get paid and go home.
Yeah, pretty much. And I don't know. We'll see where it goes.
It was not a match that people are ever going to say, hey, you know what? You need to go back and watch this match. It's not going to, like, the people whose favorite match is because of the Young Bucks and the Elite, they're diehard stands for them.
Yeah.
When we finish this up and we talk about our favorite match, you and I both know this isn't going to be our favorite match.
No,
and
nowhere near
probably none of the comments either.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm interested to see where the Bucks are going. I'm interested in seeing the Bucks do a heel turn.
I hope that you get to take the hugest victory lap when they join the Calix family.
Me too.
I hope that James lets you just go wild on the show.
I'll pull up my old notes and be like on August 23rd.
Go find the audio, cut it, and then replay it on the show.
Yeah. All right.
You got a main event?
Main event: Jay White versus Adam Cole. So pretty much went by the numbers exactly, moment for moment, what I expected it to be when they came out. I think all of us could have written that because we saw Steve Austin do it 100 times, and then Kurt Angle do it again 2 years later. But Adam Cole comes in looking very thin. I thought he's always been a skinny guy.
That beard is amazing.
The beard is amazing. He looks
like the amount of patience and dedication to let it look that shitty is it's like that's hard. It
Yeah.
is super
The only
hard.
thing that I think would have made it better was if he had like a little pot belly sticking out, like he's just full on like Michael Keaton in the first half of like the middle of Mr. Mom, like just like
Oh, I thought you were gonna say Michael Keaton in the beginning of the Flash, where he's got like the long hair
oh yeah,
and it's like the straggle,
it's
like
just scraggled, yeah, or that. Uh, yeah, I like that he's literally just been sitting playing video games this whole time because he looked like he was in no shape to do anything. Which,
sipping on Mountain Dew.
yeah, exactly. And um, he's coming out holding the ROH title, and
Not
this is when I
even
was just
wearing
like,
gear. Like
no,
like
yeah,
the late like every indication like this dude is completely unprepared to wrestle this match, but he loves his friend, and so he's going to die on the sword
right.
for him, or
And it
die
makes
trying.
zero sense. John Muse put it well. AEW was trying to stop a guy in a well. This is when MJF comes out, so I'm a little ahead of myself. But they were fine with this. They were totally fine. Played his music, everything. He's going to come out, and this guy who's not the champion and is healing from surgery and cannot walk without crutches has to be helped up onto the ring apron. Sure, we're fine with him defending a title he does not hold.
Of course.
But
Makes perfect sense in
MJF
the
comes
world of pro
back.
wrestling, right?
MJF comes back with the stolen ambulance, and 8 guys are trying to stop him from getting to the ring. So they wanted to stop a guy in a leg wrap to let the guy in the boot wrestle. And
The only
at
thing
that
that I can
point,
wrap my head around is that they knew for sure what Cole's injury was, and so that they could medically be not liable because they already knew what he was going in with
I
injuries.
guess,
And
but they did not.
MJF, they didn't know what his injuries totally were, and so like
I guess
they couldn't medically quit. And I'm just like, the
that's
fact that I have to think this hard
yeah, right.
to
You
like
yeah,
come to some type of logic, like you have failed my $50.
it's no prize booking. It's the
Yeah,
Marvel no prize.
like
You've
I
got
don't
to
want my $50 to be spent this way.
right, exactly. Yeah. And
The entire main event was a microcosm of the entire show, which was just overbooked.
yeah.
Like there was a
Mhm.
point where it's just you have too much going on.
Yeah.
And there were aspects that if you pulled that thread thoroughly and did that by itself, we would have had a much better match than literally the kitchen sink approach of every single thing that you've ever thought of
Right.
in this kind of scenario, and making sure that you were able to tell some type of match in which it all was able to flow from one point to the other. Like, just too much. Just
Right.
too much.
The one thing that they did in the match, so they both worked really hard. MJF worked really hard. MJF is a very theatrical, but I think also a pretty good seller. Depending on how well your tolerance is for theatric selling.
Selling. How many I will be so excited that when I ever see a match that he's not selling his left leg.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Every match, man, like that leg is
sometimes I just want to see him wrestle, you know?
Yeah.
And it's just like, you're a great wrestler. Just go out there and wrestle. And
10-minute match. You don't have to sell an injury, and you
right.
just go a little bit back and forth, be a champion, sell a little.
He also is doing this thing now, for as traditional of a wrestler as he is, and how much he celebrates, you know, doing traditional wrestling and doing things like getting a body slam over. He's doing this thing where in his big matches, where he pulls out one thing that's a total surprise. And this match, it was this crazy diving over the top rope cutter, where Jay's on the outside of the ring. They already made they always make a joke about how he never dives.
Mm-hmm.
And Adam Cole's always trying to get him to dive, and he never will. And every time he goes for it, like something happens, he gets cut off, right? So you always think, okay, well, wrestling psychology, one of these days he's going to pull off a dive through the ropes, and it's going to be awesome, and everyone's going to cheer, even though it's like just a dive, like everyone dives.
Mm-hmm.
But MJF's so great at planting spots in your mind and not giving it to you for a while that when he gives it to you, you cheer. But this, instead of doing that, he teased the dive, didn't get to do it, and then later in the match, Jay White is like on the apron on the outside of the rope. MJF is across the ring, the other turnbuckle. He runs at Jay, dives over the top rope, grabs his head, and pulls him to a cutter to the floor. I have never seen that move.
There were moments in this match that were legitimately like jaw dropping. I think another one was I laughed at first because of the hilariousness of it, but they're outside and they're right by the announce table, and then MJF hooked Jay onto the announce table, and it's not forcefully; it's as gently as possible, and this thing just drops.
Right, and moments before, Excalibur's like, "This announce table's been through a lot tonight,
taking a beating," and so you just see MJF just kind of look. And it's just like,
and he's
trying to decide, am I really going to go through with this? And he's like, this is how we got to get to the next part of the match.
Yeah.
And so it's just kind of like goes up to the top rope, and he literally does the Macho Man elbow onto the collapsed announce table, straight onto the floor, onto his selling left knee, and you're just like, oh God.
Yeah. I was like, I can't believe he just did that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Just unreal level of like commitment to the gimmick. Once again, MJF is performing at a main event level. He is undoubtedly a main eventer, and there's nothing that he is doing that is bad in these matches. They're just in need. He needs an editor.
Yeah. And he needs someone to just like, it's part of what makes him it's part of what's working for him as a babyface is how over the top he is. I mean, he is at Hulk Hogan level, playing to the cheap seats with his facials and his fire ups and like,
and even the ideas that he has, kangaroo kicks, and this stuff is like, it is the simplest
kangaroo kick still over with me.
Like, like how different is a kangaroo kick and a leg drop? In all honesty,
it's just a shotgun drop kick. Yeah,
it's just like you jump and you kick.
It's not even high. It's like to the sternum. Like it's not even a high kick.
This is elementary level stuff, and he has managed to make it work and get people to buy a ticket and say, "I want to see that."
Right, and that's part of what makes him great. It's part of what makes him great. But it also is like, wow, I would just like a little more subtlety in some of my matches, But good match. Jay was Jay like
the star. Before, in all honesty,
Jay was great.
Nothing in this entire angle for the last 6 weeks would work if it was not Jay White.
Yep, with a little help from Juice, but
little help from Juice, little help from the Gungs, the whole deal.
Yeah.
But
so no criticism.
If you can't look at this entire program with Jay White and think like this guy could be the top level heel, and everyone's chasing him, like I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah. Which is it? They have an embarrassment of riches when it comes to guys like that. They've got between him, Swerve, MJF, I mean even Christian to a degree, of having guys who can be show carrying characters.
They should have no problem like carrying several different shows with top level heels, but their disbursement of them and their programs with them are like just so haphazard and misguided that you're misspending your assets.
Right. And they just have these weird lanes now where it's like the world that we used to joke about the Codyverse,
right.
But that's kind of how their shows are, where you have these little universes and, someone, a lot of people would, right, in a traditional booking, you would say, okay, coming out of this match, who is the next top guy to have a main event against MJF? Most people probably say Swerve Strickland.
Yeah. And I don't even think that's even in the books right now.
Yeah. No.
Because you still got Wardlow, you still got Joe. Whatever's going to happen with Cole still kind of has to happen. You still got the Devil. Like, there's the next title on is Christian. Swerve's not going after that one.
Right.
You could put him in the Continental Classic, but that just gives him a title to do what? Put him in a title match. Just where are we going with this?
Yeah.
Like at best, like going after Kingston feels like what is the closest available title for him to go after.
Right.
Like,
but
what
when
the hell? Like
when you watch
just
this
had
show,
this amazing match. What?
Right. Traditional pro wrestling brain would say, okay, Swerve is the deadliest guy in the company. Swerve is the killer here of the company. Who is going to beat Swerve right now? Nobody. Yeah. And he's not going to get near that. And even the concept when you say, okay, I'm going to take this Swerve Strickland and this MJF, and I'm going to put them in a program together, I can't even reconcile the kind of stories those two are telling
Right.
to even say, how would that even work?
Honestly, it's probably just rich white kid and first translation.
Right.
Like
Right.
I don't honestly see that they would have any real like creativity beyond
Mhm.
that, because it's just the personalities are so hard with each other that they could just
Yeah.
talk at each other and never touch and build that feud up and
Mhm.
just make you want it. But
Yeah.
like it's clear to me that I feel like MJF is going to have that title going into 2024. And this
Yeah.
whole bidding war of 2024 thing is actually going to get an overdrive
Mhm.
going into that, which kind of makes me think Samoa Joe, they had kind of a lame duck feud.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
just, and that's fine, having Samoa Joe in there. But if you were to, and they'll never do this because they protect Samoa Joe, if you had Swerve viciously take out Samoa Joe and then insert himself into the next title match, I think
Mhm.
that would get a lot of people really interested and say, oh, what is AEW doing with this?
Mhm.
And then sometime down the line, Samoa Joe comes after Swerve to get his
Mhm.
revenge, and you have a Samoa Joe Swerve
Mhm.
program. You've
Mhm.
got a couple of ready-made programs ready to go, but they're not.
But even
I,
yeah,
I don't
e-
think they have that bravery.
even if it, yeah, exactly. Even if MJF had, and again, I chalk it up to insecurity as a performer, or Tony as a booker, but like if they were doing a more traditional run with him where it's just this is the year he proved he's the best wrestler in the world, and he's learning to believe himself, and he's learning to let other people believe in him, and not every match has to be a big convoluted um, angle to set
Right.
up a match. Just MJF trying to prove himself against this vicious killer bloodthirsty Swerve would be great,
Yeah.
and you wouldn't need to do a crazy dynamic. Yeah.
Swerve could arguably, I'd have no problem if you were our next AEW World Champion.
Oh, me either. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't, and there's a lot of people that want to see that happen and
Mm-hmm.
that be the thing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not at all against it. I
Yeah.
don't know if that's the plan. I don't know if they're brave enough to do that.
I can't imagine it is.
Yeah.
Just because I imagine he's probably got I think he's got his ideas about what's going to happen next year before he knew how good Swerve was going to be at this point.
You got Osprey on that roster, man. Like, I'm sorry.
Yeah. To me,
Like
to me, it's like you're either riding MJF all the way to Wembley, or you
Osprey,
are,
or you make plans to get Osprey in that
yeah,
position.
yeah, or yeah, exactly.
All right, I got one last question for you on my end.
Okay, all
And this
right,
is from the beginning of the show. Brandon
okay.
Sandman asked, what was your match of the night?
Oh, it's really tough. There was not a standout to me. I I think I'll say what I would say. Swerve and Hangman is the match of the night. That's the match this show is gonna be remembered for. Because of the level of violence and the kind of nonsense violence that I don't is just not my cup of tea, like
Mm-hmm.
Staples and things like that. Um, Probably the match I had the most fun with was the opener, the 6 man. But that it's not gonna be memorable, you know. So, but match
I
of the
don't
night, I
think
would
this
probably,
entire
yeah.
show. I hot take. I'm not sure this entire show will be memorable.
I don't think it
Like,
will be.
because of the level of quality of AEW shows in the past, this one is
Yeah,
going to be left a little bit in
yeah,
the dust,
yeah.
given the pedigree and quality. Like, you had Danielson and Zack Sabre Jr. as the last pay per view. As
Right.
much as you want to say Swerve and Page was a fantastic top
Mm-hmm.
level match, it still didn't touch that in terms that
Mm-hmm.
it had to do so much to be put into conversation, in
Yeah.
which the other one was just pure wrestling.
Yep.
So
Yep.
I'm with you. I think my match of the night was the 6 man. I didn't it felt like diminishing returns for me, this show. The more the show continued, my high level of optimism started dissipating. And it was never like I hated the show, but there was a reality setting in. I'm like, this is
Mm-hmm.
not the direction that I'm
Yeah.
liking, slash, I don't understand,
Felt
slash,
like a B
why
show.
aren't they giving all 12 contestants of the Continental Classic ahead of time before a tournament starts on Wednesday.
Because he doesn't know them yet, I bet.
We don't have match listings for Dynamite when they usually do match listings on the show when advertising for Wednesday. A lot of chaos, a lot of things, and it's all up in the air. So I hope that they can right the ship. World's End has my attention because of the Continental Classic tournament, and I am cautiously optimistic about the future of AEW right now, but I'm also more worried than I've ever been.
Yep. I pretty much agree with all his points. Don't even really have anything to add. All right, we've gone almost 2 hours on this recap, so we managed to do half the show, and we did not outlast the AEW press conference. Tony Khan is still talking, so he's outlasted us. So if you still want to hear discussion about this, head over to Tony Khan.
We might have had a more substantive conversation, though.
I almost guarantee we did. Yeah. I would love to ask him.
If you are still listening, go ahead and like on the YouTube page, subscribe, comment, anything for the algorithms, man.
That's right.
If you like what we talked about, Fight Game Media, Patreon, $5 for the Patreon, fightgamemedia.com. Kevin, throw some plugs out there, man.
I only get one plug, so I do a show. This might be the episode of the show this week. We might still do a Monday night show that releases on Tuesday. The Boom. It's just all things AEW. A pretty attention deficit disorder look at the week in AEW. Trends, previews, recapping matches with my buddy James, and that's pretty much all I have to plug.
From the guy that listens to the Boom, it's a great show. They have it. They have an excellent dynamic, and if James were here, I would not be here. But I did my best.
I'm glad you are here. James works Saturday evening, so he couldn't watch the show. But
you weren't able to boom.
I like the opportunity to mix it up.
Yeah, man. I always enjoy having a conversation with you. We've done it here or there with Wrestle Kingdom and New Japan and whatnot. And when I saw the opportunity, let's have a conversation. And then it turned out Will Ospreay signed.
Right.
And I cover a New Japan podcast.
Yep.
And I was like, well, shit, that worked out. Let's have a conversation.
It sure did. Yeah, it was fun.
So thank you for having me, Kevin.
Thank you for being here. And thank you for watching, all of y'all. And we will see you at the next show. Later.